It's a very good morning to the Gelding. And Gelding, a special edition of That's Racing today with, I've got my phone going off here.
Well, someone wants an important tip, Professor.
Oh, they must do, Gelding.
Hey.
I'm just going to talk over the top of that. We've got Mornington races. I remember on the Queen's, as it was then, birthday, that there used to be a metropolitan meeting, Gelding, or am I incorrect?
Good morning, Professor. Good morning, listeners. Again, your memory hasn't failed you, Professor. It used to be the long weekend, Queen's birthday weekend, and of course it was Flemington. And there used to be a series called the Winter Series, and this is certainly was part of it, a Flemington meeting. But of course, that has all been changed now, and we have the Melbourne Racing Club running Mornington on a Monday on what looks like a kind of it's a bit more than a normal Monday meeting, Professor, more like a midweek meeting, but it's still benchmark racing rather than anything in specific. When you've got I know you're always interested in the main races and that, and I think the highest rated race is the last race, Professor, a benchmark 78. So when you kind of that way, benchmark 70, benchmark 78, you're probably looking at midweekers, maybe on the fringe of a Saturday class type horse. But yeah, again,
nothing special in today's meeting, Gelding.
Exactly. That's a nice way of putting it, Professor.
And only an 8 race card, so we couldn't get to the 9 or the 10 or the 11. The first's at 12:25, the last's at 4:30 p.m. Gelding. So even if you were at the last race, you'd probably be back in time for the 6 o'clock news wherever you live.
Doesn't that just kind of have a perfect ring, Professor? You can go out in the morning, do a few things, get a few things organised. Then you've got from midday, the races. And as you said, you could be there, walk out at 4:30, about 4:45, and be home by 6 o'clock for the news.
Yeah. Now, Gelding, there's only one thing I'll say about a race meeting at Mornington on the last day of a long weekend.
Yeah, good luck coming back.
Getting home in the traffic to Melbourne.
Yes.
I think that's a bit of a problem.
Yes, Professor, agree completely. But I don't think the crowd will be that big here today. So
exactly,
we'll have a look at it. But that doesn't seem to be the main tender of racing clubs these days, getting a crowd to the races. But the secondary thing to what turnover is.
Yeah, exactly, Gelding. All right, the track's rated a soft 5 at the moment, and punters should take care with the weather, because if there's some rain, that track might be downgraded. The rail's in the true position, Gelding.
Yes, Professor. So hopefully, again, sometimes this race can favour on-pace runners, Professor. So as we always state with them when we do this show, we don't know what the pattern of the day is going to be. We can presume based on prior things, but of course that doesn't. What's the warning given by the finance companies? Prior conditions don't guarantee
a result.
So look, Professor, hopefully all should be fine. Currently got a bit of sun out here at Caulfield South, so
overcast to the southeast of you, Gelding.
Okay.
Very overcast here. It's already rained here this morning.
Okay. All right, Professor, we'll take that on board.
All right, Gelding, what are your top 2 tips for today's Mornington race meeting?
Well, Professor, I'm going very late in the day, complete opposite to you. I'm going race 7 and race 8, the benchmark 64 race and the benchmark 78 race. In race 7, the Mercedes-Benz Mornington over 1200, I like number 8, Soy Spirit. This is a 3-year-old trained by Jerome Hunter down at Mornington. Craig Williams is down to ride the horse. Be good to see Willow get a couple of winners again. Professor, this horse has had 2 starts for a win and a second. The win was down in Geelong Maiden, but looked impressive, and that was after its second at Flemington, Professor. So on its home track, I like race 7, number 8, Soy Spirit. Then we'll go into the benchmark 78, race 8. I like number 5, Written in Code, trained by Annabelle Neesham, ridden by Ethan Brown. This horse, and I'm Invincible, 4-year-old mare, Professor. It's had 4 starts for a win and 2 seconds. I think this horse is just coming back from a spell now. Not overly raced for a 4-year-old mare, Professor, with 4% starts. So Annabelle Neesham, a very good trainer. Spreading her wings, has this horse last start at Warwick Farm, now starts it off at Mornington. So let's hope race 8, horse 5, can bring some good parlays home for us today, Professor.
And you Gelding? Like? Yeah, Gelding, I'm going earlier than you. Race 1, the Key Clean handicap. It's an open race for 2-year-old fillies over 1,200 metres. Like in this one, Gelding, the first race on the card, number 2, She's Got Pizzazz, coming out of barrier 9. It's had 2 starts for 2 placings, so 100% place rate. It's in a weaker class, Gelding. It's had 2 starts. The last one at Sandown was in an open class 2 weeks ago. It's a Zoo Star filly. Everybody wants a Zoo Star, Gelding. The trainer's engaged a leading jockey, Gelding. I noticed that Luke Nolan's, even though he's riding at Mornington today, not in the saddle. Damien Lane's been engaged.
Damien Lane on board, so quite happy with that, even though you're starting to worry a little bit about Damien. Just being off the boil a little bit.
7 rides. I've done my homework, Gelding. 7 rides at Flemington on Saturday for 3 seconds a third. He was very close in a couple of those races too.
Was it 2 seconds, Professor? Where did LEU finish? Third.
Yeah, finished third.
Okay. Yeah, and Pisces. So yeah, he was thereabouts, Professor, for us, but not quite the chocolates.
Not quite the chocolates, Gelding. So race 1, horse 2, Moody and Coleman, our trainers, Gelding.
Yes,
currently in the last 50, 16%. So I'll take that.
Yes.
And pretty good odds at the moment, Gelding. $2.70 and $1.35 you can get.
Now, Professor, just quickly off the mark and without notice to you, what do you think of some of the names in the horses, the unraced horses in race 1? How do owners come up with these names, Professor? Number 4, Evil Lover. Number 5, Hot Chips.
What about number 6, Lock's Shot?
Lock Shot, eh? Interesting, Professor, isn't it?
I don't get it, Gelding, but anyway.
What's your theory on naming horses, Professor?
It's the same as yours, Gelding. If you've got a bad name, won't be a very good horse.
Yes, I agree completely with you there.
All right, Gelding.
Reluctantly charmed.
Yeah, well, She's Got Pizzazz. There's something about that, isn't there?
That's right. That's a bit of oomph. That's a bit of life into it, Professor.
Hopefully some ping on the turn, Gelding.
Oh, She's Got Pizzazz, eh? Yeah, you could see him breaking out in a dance in the mounting yard, eh?
Yeah, I'll be watching that one very closely, Gelding. And then my second selection for the day in the Holmes Acreage Handicap Race 3, benchmark 70 over 1,600 metres. I like in this one, number 10, Gelding, Gornsky.
Oh, I'm interested in this, Professor.
Coming out of barrier 8, Gelding, it's had 10 starts for 1 win and 3 placings, so a 10% win rate, 40% place rate. Gelding did a little bit of a look at the history, ran second to Molly Nickers in an open race last year. Now, Molly Nickers has since run in Group 1, Group 2 and Group 3 races, including the Queensland Oaks, where it finished 6th on Saturday, which finished much better than Scarlet Oak, but we'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on.
Professor, I can't do anything about when the jockey pulls them up.
No, I understand that. No, not blaming you, Gelding. I'm just saying I'll be talking about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
It beat number 4, the Jester's Son, at Mornington in March. It's back in class. Zach Spain's in the saddle, trained by Jason Warren. You can currently get $7 and $2.10. I think this is probably the bet of the day, as the value bet of the day, Gelding, not the best bet of the day, but I think it's the value bet of the day. Number 10, Gornsky. So my 2 selections at Mornington today: race 1, horse 2, She's Got Pizzazz. Race 3, number 10, Gornsky.
Gornsky. Is that after your favourite ruckman, Professor?
It should be number 11, Gelding. If it
should be one more down, yes. Gornsky.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about Melbourne in the Professor's parlay, Gelding.
Oh, okay. The Poison Chalice.
Yeah, let's talk Professor's parlay. Saturday, okay. Gelding, Eagle Farm, Scarlet Oaks. Scarlet Oak, according to the official scorer, 51 lengths last.
The
favourite, McDonald Waller, but the saving grace. I went to the steward's report. A veterinary examination showed an upper respiratory noise, so it won't be able to race again until it's got a vet clearance. It's had a fluoroscope down to have a look, and also it's got to get a vet certificate. And it's got to run in a trial, so it's got to get over a few hurdles, even though it's not a hurdle racer. Yes. Before we'll see it back in the starting stalls, Gelding. So I think that probably explains the horse was distressed, and that's why it was pulled up. You can't predict that.
When you've got a leading jockey on board, and they take care of these horses, Professor. But in my defence, I will say I was a bit stiff. I did say we've got the leading jockey in Australasia, I think, and probably a world-ranked jockey doing it. 10-race program. He rides 50% of it, rides 5 winners, and the one we're on, he pulls up. What do you say to that, Professor?
Hashtag oh dear, that's what you say.
Is it, or that's racing?
That's racing. We could say that too, Gelding. That's racing. So the other 2 legs, of course, got up. The Storm beat the Knights, and I must admit, Gelding, I tuned in with the Storm were 6 and the Knights were 12, and I thought, oh, okay, this doesn't look too good. And then 90 seconds before half time, or in the 90 seconds between when I tuned in and half time, Storm scored 2 tries to go in leading 18-12. And of course, they never were worried after that. And the Swans, well, when I tuned in to watch them after the first quarter, they were 33 points behind. I thought, oh, well, this is not a very good tip. Turned out it was a very good tip, Gelding, because the Cats stopped and the Swans didn't. Yes,
it was like a shotgun into the Cats, wasn't it? Very disappointing.
Very disappointing, Gelding. If they make the final 8, I think the Cats will be just making up the numbers, Gelding.
Some of their veterans, Professor, time?
Yeah, I think getting towards time, Gelding.
Be interesting to see what they do.
They're full forward. I don't think their full forward will be playing next year.
No, not the 400. No,
and I think maybe he's gone around one season too many.
Yes, but yeah. I'm with you there, Professor, on form. But I suppose if you had a look at his form the previous year, it was probably good enough to suggest he might have gone one more. But anyway, that's another show.
It is, Gelding. It is. All right. So today's bet of the day, or our agreed bet of the day.
Yes. Race 7, number 8, Soy Spirit. Local trainer Jerome Hunter and Craig Williams. So race 7, number 8, Professor, the agreed bet.
Currently showing 280, Gelding, so it's putting a very nice start to the parlay. And we'll parlay that into Collingwood to beat my team, Melbourne, Gelding. Collingwood currently 9th, Melbourne currently 10th. They're both on the same percentage, both on the same points, negligible percentage between the two of them. It's just, I think Collingwood, even with their injuries, are travelling better than Melbourne. I've watched Melbourne a couple of times in the last 2 or 3 weeks on TV, briefly, because I get so frustrated watching it I have to turn off. I don't see Melbourne improving enough after last week to beat Collingwood. Collingwood are playing better football, even with all the injuries they've got, Gelding. They played very well against the Bulldogs, and just surrendered in the end, and I think they were overcome. But I think the Bulldogs are probably playing better than Melbourne at the moment.
Oh, geez. Professor, is this a game, Dacos versus a Melbourne centre trio of Viney, Petrarca and Oliver and that, and who plays better?
Well, I reckon Dacos will beat the three of them. So, yeah. The thing for me, Gelding, is I can't see Melbourne kicking a winning score. They've been terrible up forward, and if they're not kicking goals, you can't expect the defence to save you in every game, Gelding.
Well, especially when one of your main keys is missing. Very reliable, and I've got to admit, I was shocked last Sunday after watching Melbourne kick the first 2 goals, and of course we had to go out. And when I came back and turned the TV on, it was the last quarter, and I just
they hadn't kicked too many more, Gelding.
Well, I kind of just heard in the background, an 82-point lead, and I thought, Melbourne have walked this one in.
Yeah.
And the complete turnaround. So, and some of the commentary on Melbourne during the week hasn't been pleasant, Professor. And
rightfully so.
This is a side, Professor, in the last, would it be fair to say, 4 or 5 years have probably been one of the most consistent and a side that you could completely trust week in, week out.
Yes, Gelding, and you can't trust them now.
Yeah, so that's a big turnaround.
It is, Gelding. And let's parlay that into my team, Canterbury, and it's been a long time since I've tipped Canterbury in the NRL to beat Parramatta. Canterbury 11th on the ladder. They've won 6 from 12. Parramatta 14th, only 3 spots behind, but they've only won 4 from 12. What I like about Canterbury in this game, Gelding, Canterbury's points differential plus 77. Parramatta's points differential minus 107, probably the worst in the NRL at the moment. So I think with Canterbury currently showing $2.12, Gelding, very nice odds for parlay there. The win parlay currently showing 11-1. Very, very rare that we're in that rarefied air. And
very nice.
The place parlay currently showing 11-2, Gelding.
Very nice, Professor. Very, very nice.
All right, Gelding. Well, we've done double time this long weekend. I wasn't expecting to do this, but when I thought about it yesterday, I thought, well, why not? Why don't we do a special That's Racing? See if we can improve the copies of GM Racing.
We'll certainly be working hard on that today, Professor. And as we've said previously, there's always good to see a couple more greenies there, right?
Well, that's right. And it's always nice to have an interest in the race, isn't it?
Exactly, Professor. So certainly be watching the races and watching the football today. And I do wish your Demons the best. Any family wagers, Professor?
No family wages today, Gelding. I'm smarter than that.
Well, I thought it's the standard rule anyway. Dad just pays anyway.
Exactly right, Gelding. Exactly right. All right, Gelding. Until next Saturday, and That's Racing.